This is Michael Malak, February 28th, 2015. This is a screencast version of the presentation that I just gave for the Data Science Association at their meetup. Spark ecosystem. So 2-3 years ago, we made a transition from the Hadoop to the Hadoop ecosystem, and right about now we're going through a similar sort of thing with Spark because there are so many extra modules continually being developed. So this 10-minute presentation is to guide you through that. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at our velocity before we go into the jungle. So Spark releases, these are version numbers. The Spark was released into Apache around the 0.8 version, same time as Databricks was founded. And so after they got the initial stuff going, after that, then starting with 0.9 and on up, they have very regularly released a new 0.1 version every quarter. 1.2 was just released mid-December, and they're already voting on 1.3, so that's probably going to be released mid-March 2015. It's more dramatic looking at the JIRA tickets. There have been as many JIRA tickets entered in the last 2 months, first 2 months of 2015, as during the entire 2 years of 2012 and 2013. So it's getting faster. How do we deal with it? How do we keep up with all this stuff? Well, these are the ways that I keep up. First of all, everyone needs to be, if you want to keep up on Spark, everyone needs to be on these 2 mailing lists from Apache. That's just a minimum. But the other thing I do, this stuff is moving so fast that every day I log into the Apache JIRA for Spark and I look at the most recent JIRA tickets that have been created. And if there's something that catches my eye as being something important to track, then I set myself to be a watcher on it, and I'll get an email when and if that feature or bug gets developed or fixed. And if that's too much for you to keep track of, just follow my blog, because I'm following all these data sources and distilling it down for you. Conference videos. There are now 4 major sources of conference videos, and it's starting to get hard to keep track of it. We've gotten used to Spark Summit over the last year and a half or so, but don't forget about AmpCamp. They just had an AmpCamp 5 in December. Sometimes it's easy to forget about that. There's also now the Bay Area Spark Meetup. This is actually run by the Databricks guys, and they live stream and produce videos every month. And of course there are the Strata videos as well. Books. The O'Reilly Learning Spark book just came out yesterday. It's been available, some chapters, for a while online, but the Dead Trees came out available on Amazon yesterday. And then of course there's my book that is going to be released later this year, Spark GraphX in Action. Hopefully that'll go into MEEP, Manning Early Access publication, in the next week or so. So we'll be able to start getting that electronically. Twitter, up until about 6 months ago, I thought Twitter was just for tracking celebrities and gossip and stuff like that. Well, it turns out there's this whole big data and data science subculture on Twitter, very active, and I always wondered, what useful information could there be in 140 characters? Well, the answer is that it's a link recommendation service, or at least that's what it is for big data and data science. So it's like Stumble Upon from the 90s, but everybody's on Twitter now, tweeting important new links and news. So it may be surprising to some people, but it's an important source of information. Now, one of my secrets that I really like is Google Scholar Alerts. You may have heard of Google Alerts, you may be using it, but it turns out that Google Scholar, the source for academic papers, also has an alert capability. So if you go to one of these seminal papers, like Matei's original RDD paper, you can set up an alert where you will get an email every time a new paper is published that cites that seminal paper. And so far there are about 450 papers that cite Matei's original paper. So that means if you set up an alert on that paper for future citations, you'll get an email about one every other day regarding academic research that extends the state of the art concerning Spark. And of course the code repositories. The vast majority of modules published for Spark still to this day come from AmpLab, and they have two repositories, AmpLab and AmpLab Extras. And then there's this new thing that Databricks is pushing called Spark Packages. I think this is so that they don't have to incorporate too many more modules into the official Apache distribution. So they're promoting Spark Packages so extra things can go in there. Alright, so that's how we can keep up. What does the current ecosystem look like? What is the snapshot? So let's take a look and see what that looks like. So there, in the middle, we have Spark itself, the Apache distribution. That depends on some dependencies. And then on top of Spark, there are various add-ons that are available. So the core Spark is really just these 5 modules. You probably see these birthday cake multi-layer diagrams with 20 things hanging off of them. But really, these are the only 5 things in the Apache distribution. Spark requires a couple of things to work: distributed storage and a cluster manager. Now, you can get away without distributed storage if you're just on a single node, but for any practical application of Spark, you're going to need distributed storage. These are the 3 that have first-class support, and there may be some others, other support available on Spark project. But when it comes to cluster manager, it's more of an exact number. There are only 3 cluster managers supported. Standalone, which I don't think is a really good name because it makes it sound like it's just a single node Spark cluster, but it's not. It's the native Spark clustering, or Hadoop Yarn, or Apache Mesas. Now add-ons. The vast majority of add-ons come from AmpLab. And there are many more than I have listed here. I've just picked out some of the best and roughly categorized them to go through them. So this first category is stuff that's almost in Apache Spark. So if you go to the Databricks site, they'll list SparkR and BlinkDB in a grade color, indicating they're all closely related to Spark or almost officially in Spark or something like that. So currently there's a debate right now on the message boards as to whether to incorporate SparkR into the official Apache Spark distribution. Matei and some others would like to see R as another officially supported language beyond Python and Java and Scala. Others are afraid of the development burden that's going to put on everybody to continually integrate and support it. BlinkDB, I included it because it was on the Databricks site, but I'm not sure that there's actually been forward development on it, because BlinkDB was based on Shark, which was deprecated a year ago. And I don't know, I'm not aware of any continued development on it to support Spark SQL, which has replaced Shark. Indexed RDD I find really interesting. I was disappointed it did not make it into the 1.3 release that's being voted on right now. Beyond just the name indexed RDD, it is indexed, but also it's mutable. It's like a mutable hash map in RDD form. And I think this is really important because RDDs are immutable after the functional programming style, but when you're talking about big data, it's not always convenient and performant to have immutable data. So I'm hoping that'll get into 1.4. It's not currently targeted for that. There are some other AMP-Lab projects that go to the core of Spark. I've talked about Tachyon several times in presentations and blog posts. It's a way to offload data from the JVM and put it into a Linux C language-based RAM disk. Succinct is a layer on top of Tachyon that's a key value store. Sparrow is different. Sparrow is an improved scheduler. It can really improve the performance of Spark by more intelligently assigning tasks to workers. Now, Sparrow is tightly integrated with Spark. So the last version of Sparrow, I think, has targeted Spark 0.8 or something like that. And it hasn't been brought up to speed yet, brought up to date with the latest versions, just as a matter of priority. A lot of people on the message boards have requested Sparrow, but there just hasn't been time to bring it up to the latest version. There are some top-level applications. Atom is for bioinformatics. Caret is for monitoring energy usage. A lot of modules out of AMP-Lab for machine learning. Of course, there's MLBase. MLBase has 3 layers: ML Optimizer, MLI, and MLlib. MLlib, the bottom layer, is actually part of the core Apache project. ML Optimizer and MLI are still in AMP-Lab. And then we have these other 3 I've listed at the bottom, not related to MLBase. ML Matrix is for matrix operations. Cocoa is improved performance in machine learning by improved scheduling, and Velox is a mechanism to pipeline some machine learning and to schedule it. Now, I mentioned monitoring Spark Jira. Well, it's not sufficient. You also have to monitor at least this one other Jira ticket from another repository, namely Hive. So Hive-on-Spark is a Hive ticket rather than a Spark ticket. And then there's that sparkpackages.org that I mentioned previously. A lot of stuff in here like data connectors using the new Spark SQL data connector technology that was introduced in 1.2. Some other stuff in here though. Spork is Pig-on-Spark. Various HBase connectors. Sparkling water allows use of the H2O machine learning algorithms, connector to MongoDB. And then Thunder and Lightning is really interesting. There was a Bay Area meetup on that. It's stream processing coupled with D3JS visualization. This is done by those guys that present at a lot of conferences, Spark conferences, on their neuroscience, where they have the mouse running on the treadmill. But I mean, they've been at it for 2-3 years, and they keep advancing the state of the art in Spark. And Thunder and Lightning is their latest attempt to do that. And so that is the state of the Spark ecosystem and how you can keep up with its high velocity.